night into Wednesday morning. Now, Government Senator Marlon Morgan wants Opposition Leader Mark Golding and PNP Chairman Angela Bromberg, that should be Dr. Angela Bromberg, to apologize for the incident which led to Bromberg being suspended from Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives, that marathon sitting. In that incident, Dr. Bromberg removed the ceremonial mace from its stand, and in doing so, the entire opposition joined with her. And we're not going to play the rap studio. The entire opposition joined with her and defied the chairman's ruling and the majority vote that approved the suspension of Dr. Bromberg. Now, Government Senator Marlon Morgan, who is also Parliamentary Secretary in the Education Ministry, was blunt in his assessment.
The disgraceful behavior exhibited by Angela Brown Burke and her PNP colleagues not only threatens to shake the very foundations of our democracy, but equally so constitutes a new low in the political history of our beloved nation. For the other PNP members, led by Opposition Leader Mark Golding, to have joined Angela Brown Burke in open defiance of the rules governing Parliament and the expressed directive of the Chairman and House Speaker renders them just as culpable and worthy of rebuke as Angela Brown Burke herself.
The voice there of Senator Marlon Morgan. Now, he goes on to say the opposition leader, Mark Golding, was complicit in the act. As Parliamentary Secretary in the Education Ministry, Senator Morgan says he regularly speaks to young Jamaicans about responsible conduct. He says Tuesday night's behavior sent the wrong message to the nation's children.
I am particularly disappointed that the parliamentary opposition, with opposition leader Mark Golding being equally complicit, has undermined the moral authority of our nation's parliament in the way they have. As right-thinking members of society, we must recognize that the actions of the opposition PNP in Parliament Tuesday night set a poor example for the school children we are urging to conduct themselves appropriately. While I look forward to the appropriate parliamentary sanctions to be meted out to Angela Brown Burke in particular, nothing but a swift and unreserved apology by Angela Brown Burke and opposition leader Mark Golding to the Speaker, their colleague parliamentarians, and by extension the people of Jamaica should be forthcoming at this time.
The government centre went on to accuse the PNP of attempting to drag Jamaica, he says, back to the dark days in its democratic history. A bit hyperbolic there from the government centre, but this is what he had to say.
The Parliament of Jamaica is the preeminent symbol of our rich and vibrant democracy. That a sitting of a committee of Parliament was so disgracefully disrupted and effectively brought into disrepute is the clearest indication yet that the opposition PNP is prepared to take Jamaica back to the dark days of our unsavory political past, as if the grossly disorderly conduct of PNP chairman Angela Brown Burke, who interfered with the mace, was not repugnant and disturbing enough. The entire opposition PNP was openly defiant and exhibited contempt for the chairman's ruling and the will of the members who voted in favor of Brown Burke's suspension from the remainder of Tuesday night's sitting of Parliament.
The voice there of Marlon Morgan. He's a government senator and also parliamentary secretary in the Education Ministry. I quite agree with a number of the points here, hyperbole aside, that the government senator is making. But there's also a video. At Nora Studio, if you have it ready for me, you can let us play that clip. So there's a video now that is making the rounds from a member of parliament from South St. James, the PNP's Nikisha Burchell. Yeah, I think she's also a deputy general secretary in the People's National Party. Now, it appears the PNP is choosing to die on this hill. Now, let me just offer a word of unsolicited advice to the PNP. This is not the political hill to die on. By any definition, Dr. Angela Brown Burke's conduct was disorderly. If the standing orders are to be respected, what Dr. Brown Burke did was wrong. And we have a problem with principle in this country. Two things I think we have a problem with in this country. Principle, understanding principle, and understanding nuance. Now, do I think the mace is a relic of our colonial present? Because the colonial vestiges remain. Now, I'm not saying colonial past, colonial present. Yes, it is a remaining, a lingering vestige of our colonial present, past and present. And it ought not to be. As a free people, yes, we need not have a symbol representing a monarch that is not a citizen of this country. Absolutely, I agree with that. But what I also I'm trying to put forward, and two things can be true at the same time, is that the rules are what they are right now. And a matter of fact, I escalate my argument even further by advancing that the PNP has largely been an obstacle to removing the mace from the nation's parliament by tying the constitutional reform required to remove Britain's monarch as Jamaica's head of state to the CCJ. They have put a blockade effectively in the road to becoming a republic. Now there's a Gleaner article I want to read for you, but let's have a look at this video that is now making the rounds on social media involving Nikisha Burchell of the PNP.
Well, good evening, Jamaica. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you breaking news from out of Parliament. Yesterday, the mace was touched. Yes, touched. So we came here to Parliament to check on the mace to see how the mace is doing. Hello, mace. Tell us what happened.
I was minding my business, as one does, symbolizing authority as we colonial vestiges do, when suddenly I was lifted.
Lifted? Oh, really? Wow. How did that make you feel?
Well, I must say it was rather shocking. Quite the disturbance. I haven't experienced such contact in years.
Not since Edmund Bartlett.
But you're fine though, correct?
Yes, I am fine.
Well, there you have it. We can all settle down now because the mace is fine. Now let's talk about what really happened, because before the mace became the headline, members of Parliament were trying to speak. Angela Brown-Burke was ignored when she tried to speak. Mark Golding, ignored. Philip Paulwell, Omar Newell, Isat Buchanan, Mike on, standing. Sometimes they were heard, sometimes they weren't. They tried to catch the speaker's attention.
No, it doesn't make sense to turn on your mic again, member. We are finished.
But sometimes they were even asked to state why they needed to speak. Before they could even speak, they were asked to confirm whether their point was new before their microphones were turned on by the speaker.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Hold on, man, but...
Divide. Clark? Please carry.
I think we've seen enough. Now, I understand the opposition feeling as if their members are being muzzled in the government's attempt to push through this bill. And if they feel so aggrieved, they have the right to protest. And if it is entirely wrong for any member of the House besides the marshal to touch the mace, that's how the Parliament operates. Now, that video from Nikisha Burchell seems to suggest that the PNP does not appreciate the standing orders. It's not whether or not the mace was harmed. I'm really trying to understand where the PNP is going with this. This is not the hill to die on. Now, let me read for you an article before we run out of time, listeners, and then I have to close my commentary. Let me read an article posted in the Gleaner today. It says, and this was written by one of the country's eminent parliamentary reporters at the Gleaner, Edmund Campbell. It reads, When Member of Parliament for St. Andrew South Western, Dr. Angela Bromberg, hoisted the mace from under the table, while the Committee of the Whole House examined the controversial National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority NARA bill on Tuesday, there was a predictable outcome. Chaos ensued. The parliamentary opposition had made their position clear from early in the debate that they did not intend to support the NARA bill in its current form and demanded meaningful changes to insert effective oversight in the proposed law. The NARA bill gives sweeping powers to the Chief Executive Officer of the authority to spend billions of dollars towards reconstruction efforts post-Hurricane Melissa without a strong oversight framework. As the committee conducted its deliberations into late Tuesday, a video shared with the Gleaner showed, and can we show that video, studio, where we got that angle from the what appears to be perhaps the security camera, yes, with Dr. Bromberg actually getting up and touching the mace, right? Whether she did it in jest or protest, it does not really change the rules governing the parliament. If we do not agree with the rules, we need to change them. We can't just break them. Yes, and if you're on our YouTube channel, you should be seeing it. Yes, but the Gleaner article goes on to say, as the committee conducted its deliberations into late Tuesday, a video shared with the Gleaner showed that Bromberg left her seat and advanced towards the mace, the symbol of authority by which Parliament meets to pass laws, amend legislation, or repeal them. At the start of each day sitting, the presiding officer is preceded by the marshal bearing the mace, and the mace is placed on the table of the House. When the House resolves into a committee of the whole, and the presiding officer functions as chairman, the mace is placed under the table. Notably, Bromberg, in a seeming jest, took up the mace, put it down, and repeated her action, then turned to engage members on the government side. The opposition MPs, according to the Gleaner's reportage, the opposition MPs' action drew a sharp and swift response from chairman of the committee, Juliet Holness, who demanded that Bromberg leave the chambers. Marshal, please, Angela Bromberg, I name you. Marshal, go for her, she declared. A motion was subsequently moved by Leader of Government Business, Floyd Green, for Bromberg to be suspended for the rest of the sitting. However, when the Marshal, Captain Wayne Blake, approached Bromberg to usher her out of the chamber, opposition members encircled her and broke out into a popular gospel chorus singing, I shall not be moved. After a short break, opposition members left the chamber, and Bromberg did not return with them when the House resumed. Now, former Leader of Government Business, Derek Smith, said Bromberg was completely out of order, and I agree with the former Member of Parliament, Derek Smith, and that the action of House Speaker Holness was appropriate for the infringement. I also agree with that assessment. He says, quote, I'm wondering if she was ignorant of the standing orders or she was ignorant of the repercussions of removing the mace, he said while speaking with the Gleaner yesterday. And this video is perhaps raising those questions as well. This video from Nikisha Burchell. Are they ignorant of what the standing orders say? Smith also chided members of the opposition who seemingly sided with Bromberg after she committed the breach. Speaker Holness was completely correct in her actions to have her removed from the chamber, from the House, Derek Smith said. Asked if further action should be taken against Bromberg, the former veteran parliamentarian and House leader said he would not recommend any further disciplinary measure, as it was a one-off action from the opposition lawmaker. Dr. Bromberg has been a member of parliament for about 2 terms. Now, this is where I disagree with Derek Smith. It's because she refused to leave the chamber why I think additional punitive sanctions should be sought against the member. She refused absolutely to leave. She protested, took up the mace, as others have done. That is not unique. Yes, it's not novel. People in the past have done it. But she refused to leave when instructed so to do. Even when the marshal was summoned and asked to escort her from the parliament, she remained in her seat in defiance. That can't be acceptable behavior from leaders. And a lot of PNP people have been suggesting out there, supporters of the PNP, that, and even in response to comments I made yesterday, that, look, this whole business of removing the mace, Edmund Bartlett did it. I'm going to read for you what the Gleaner has on the Edmund Bartlett issue, and then we'll see if those arguments are cogent. We'll take the break right here and come back with more. This hill, and it's not the hill for them to choose to die on. Yes, what Dr. Bromberg did, whether in protest or in jest, broke the rules. Yes, and because she broke the rules, it ought to be condemned. Rules are important in a free and democratic society. That we have to be making those points, it's painful, actually, that we have to be making those points. There are actually people who are pushing back against this principled position. Now, listen what the Gleaner says about the removal of the mace in Jamaica's parliamentary sittings, the history of it. It reads, let me read what the line before that. One former senior member of the People's National Party, says the Gleaner, who asked not to be named, said he believed the issue was being blown out of proportion, as the member may have lifted the mace without ill will and was just creating a little drama. Again, they can't be this politically tone deaf. They can't be this ignorant of the standing orders and the rules that apply. It is mind-boggling, listeners and viewers. The removal of the mace, says the Gleaner, in Jamaica's parliamentary sittings might be rare but not new. In December 2003, then opposition MP Edmund Bartlett, in an uncharacteristic move, lifted the mace and sprinted with it to bar the front door of Parliament. In its story of the incident, the Gleaner headline screamed pandemonium in the House. This is December 2003. I would have been a young journalist at the time. I think I started out in about 2001. So I would have been a young journalist at the time. I would have been at the Gleaner at the time. But what triggered the incident? Bartlett wanted to move a suspension of the standing order to allow for a motion moved by the then leader of opposition business to be debated. However, the then Deputy Speaker, the late O.T. Williams, had adjourned the House amid a loud chorus of no, no, no from the opposition benches. As Williams descended from the Speaker's chair to make the 15 meters walk along the center aisle to the bar of the House front door, Bartlett got hold of the mace and rushed towards the door, using the parliamentary symbol to block the exit of the Speaker from the chamber. Bartlett was assisted by members of the opposition, while government members, on the other hand, tried to force the door open. The government members ultimately succeeded in opening the door, and the Speaker exited the chambers. The following week, then Speaker of the House, Michael Peart, said the, quote, seizing of the mace by Bartlett is a grave violation by all accounts. This is a speaker from the PNP benches. A grave violation by all accounts. No one is permitted to touch the mace other than the marshal. Once he accepts it, from my office, brings it into this parliament and returns it to my office. Bartlett then offered his unreserved apology for what he said was, quote, a critical departure from the accepted practice and principle of the House. Now, for those of you appealing to the Bartlett example, Edmund Bartlett did wrong and he apologized. Angela Brownberg, Dr. Angela Brownberg, should do likewise. To the extent that my own action, Mr. Speaker, said Bartlett in a quote, did in fact contravene those rules and those principles, I offered to this chamber, to you, Mr. Speaker, and to the country at large, my personal apology. The very same thing I called for yesterday from Dr. Brownberg. She owes this country an apology, and she owes her parliamentary colleagues an apology. She owes the Speaker of the House, Juliet Holness, an apology as well. The Gleaner goes on to say a search through Hansard, the official records of Parliament, has revealed that on October 17, 1968, Hugh Lawson Shearer, then Prime Minister, rose to give a ministerial statement and was cut short in his tracks by opposition lawmaker Maxwell Carey, who left his seat and removed the mace from the table of the House. While removing the mace, Carey said, I am protesting because I think this is intellectual murder. The member then walked away, bearing the mace to the opposition benches. The Gleaner goes on. When asked by the then Speaker, Eugene Parkinson, to give a reason for his conduct, Carey said he wanted to register his protest against the barring of Pan-African Socialist and University of the West Indies lecturer Walter Rodney from Jamaica, noting that the then Prime Minister Shearer did not even give an opportunity to the gentleman to reach his yard and to see his wife and child. Carey then left the chambers without further comment. Speaker Parkinson said he deplored the conduct of the opposition MP, calling it unparliamentary. The conduct of Dr. Bromberg is unparliamentary, and the PNP should wrap its collective head around that. It is unprecedented, and I hope there will be no recurrence of acts like this, Parkinson declared. However, messy the Mace debacles, are not confined to local jurisdiction. In December 2018, Labour MP in Britain, Lloyd Russell Moyle, in the House of Commons, seized the Mace in protest against a decision by then British Prime Minister Theresa May to call off her Brexit vote. When the government declared it would not continue with the withdrawal debate, Russell Moyle grabbed the mace, held it up in the center of the chambers to a chorus of outrage from the Tory benches. Conservative MPs called for his expulsion, saying he was a disgrace as the Labour MP raised the mace aloft. He eventually handed the mace back to Commons officials and was suspended by the Speaker for the rest of the sitting. Now, in more mace moving, I gather if you look at the paper, this might have been a pull quote, and it reads, in April 2008, Gleaner contributor Ken Jones, in highlighting cases of disorder in the House, wrote, quote, another 6-month suspension was received by Mr. Keeble Munn, who did not raise the level of his voice. Instead, he demonstrated his disagreement by swiftly removing the mace from its place and heading for the door, thereby bringing the sitting to an abrupt end. That was in '69. 19 years after the maverick FLB Evans had done the same thing for the first time, he got only 1 month suspension. Then there was Maxie Carey, who repeated the offense in 1968 and was barred for 2 months. Perhaps we need to return to those days of suspending people for months, perhaps, because it doesn't appear that a significant number of our parliamentarians, and now in this instance it's those 28 members over on the opposition benches, and I'm not certain if all of them are in agreement with this activity, but quite frankly too many of them are. Those who were present and supported it, yes, they don't seem to be au fait with what the parliamentary rules require. And their supporters as well. It doesn't matter if it is a PNP or JLP MP who breaks the rules. If they break the rules, they must apologize. And I also, in my commentary yesterday, left room for protest, because people in a democracy, it's the beauty of a democracy that you have the right to protest for what you think is right. And sometimes people in protest choose to take up the mace. It is wrong, but they choose so to protest. And then after you protest, you then submit yourself to the repercussions. You don't be wrong and strong. You accept your punishment because you would have recorded and registered your protest. The PNP owes this country an apology, and Dr. Angela Bromberg owes this country an apology. And they also owe their parliamentary colleagues and the Speaker an apology. And they also owe the Marshal an apology. I see some people online suggesting that the Marshal should have physically accosted Dr. Angela Bromberg. Please, just leave the Marshal alone, because I'm not certain what you think that would have achieved, other than additional chaos. More pandemonium. Is that what we want? Absolutely not. That's all we have time for my commentary this morning.